Hello Dark Souls fans, and welcome back to another episode of Methodical Gamer. Today we're going to take a look at one of my personal favorite classes in Dark Souls, the dexterity-based Pyromancer. Before we get started looking at the weapons, keep in mind that this build is based upon two ideas. One is close range attacks that push opponents away, and the second is long range attacks that pull opponents in. The first right hand weapon we're going to take a look at today is the Quelaag's Furysword. This curved sword is a boss weapon. It's created through the giant blacksmith when combining a curved sword plus 10 with the soul of Quelaag. In order to properly wield this weapon, your character will need to meet the minimum base stat requirements of 11 strength and 13 dexterity. This weapon upgrades to the pathway of Demon Titanite, and at plus 5 it scales with an E in strength and a B in dexterity. The Quelaag Furysword is considered a chaos weapon, therefore the damage will also scale based upon the humanity in the top left hand corner of your screen, and this number will cap at 10. Looking at our second right hand weapon, we are using the black Bow of Pharis. This weapon is dropped and acquired from one of the forest hunters in the Darkroot Forest. In order to properly wield this bow, your character needs to meet the minimum base stat requirement of 9 strength and 18 dexterity. This weapon upgrades to the pathway of normal Titanite, and at plus 15 this weapon scales with an E in strength and an S in dexterity. One special note about this bow is that it has a longer range than your standard bow does. This can be increased further by the use of feather arrows, however due to the range that we're fighting for our PvP matches, we just stick with the larger arrows for higher DPS. The last weapon we're going to take a look at is the Ascended Pyromancy Flame plus 5. Pyromancy in Dark Souls 1 is considered to be the simplest form of magic in comparison to sorcery or miracles. The main reason for this being the lack of demand for stat investment to make full use of all the pyromancy abilities. The only stat you really need to invest in is attunement, so you have slots available for your abilities. The damage of all pyromancy is determined solely by the spell and the power of the Pyromancy Flame. The Pyromancy Flame can be modified or upgraded by the other pyromancy merchants throughout the game. Now, before I mention this Pyromancy Flame is Ascended, what you need to do is get the normal Pyromancy Flame up to plus 15 using souls, and then once it's a 15 you locate Quelaag of Izalith, and she will further enhance it to the Ascended level. One thing to note with the Pyromancy Flame is it's very confusing and a lot of players mess up their builds because you look at the parameter bonus and it says that it scales with an A in intelligence. What that actually does is it increases the damage of your L2 or R2 if you were to strike with the weapon, but the pyromancies that are coming from the flame itself will not increase in damage if you increase your intelligence. The last thing to say about the Pyromancy Flame is that the casting speed in this game is directly related to your dexterity stat. Alright, let's take a look at our armor for this character. Gotta say, I'm extremely happy with the fashion souls we turned out with for this build. Up first for the head, we have the gold hem black hood. This piece has reasonably low equipment burden, but extremely high flame defense. Up next for the chest, we have the armor of Artorias. Medium to high weight cost, but again extremely good physical and flame defense. For the hands, we're using the gold hem black gloves. And lastly for the legs, we're using the leggings of Artorias. You may have noticed by now the way I like to construct my armor for my Dark Souls 1 builds. I like my defenses to be high in the same area my characters are successful, meaning I don't want other pyromancers out there beating my character, and I don't want to be outdone in sorcery with my sorcerer class, and I want to have the best defense against a dexterity build when I'm using my dex class. For our 2 ring slots, we're using the Ring of Favor and Protection. This increases our HP, stamina, and equipment load. And for our second ring, we're using the Bellowing Dragoncrest ring. Now, taking a look at the item description, it says it boosts sorcery, but in Dark Souls 1, the pyromancies also receive this buff as well. Now, flipping over to our specific character stat breakdown, you can see we put a lot of points into vitality, endurance, and dexterity. You can also note that we meet all the minimum base stat requirements for our weapons. We do have 12 points in the strength, and that's just because the pyromancer starts with 12 points already in that category. We have 19 points allocated into attunement, and that's just so we have 5 slots available for our pyromancies. Just want to say thank you to all those out there continuing to support this channel and helping it grow. See you next time.